Congratulations on the purchase of your new CarveWright woodworking system. Designed to be user-friendly, the CarveWright woodworking system will provide you and your family hours of creative enjoyment. The system is comprised of two main components, the CarveWright machine and CarveWright Designer software. These components together allow you to easily design a project from the comfort of your home, upload that project into a memory card, transport that project to your woodshop or garage, and insert it into the machine for carving. This operational DVD, while thorough, is not intended to provide complete training of the CarveWright woodworking system. Always refer to the owner's manual for comprehensive information. Make sure to check out our online resources as well. It is highly recommended that you fully read and understand the owner's manual prior to working with the CarveWright system. Ensure your personal safety and the safety of others by reading and following all safety rules listed in your manual. Out of the box. The CarveWright woodworking system arrives with everything you need to start creating intricate projects. The basic system contains the following items: CarveWright carving machine, CarveWright Designer software installation disc, owner's manual and quick start guide, CarveWright instructional DVD, CarveWright memory card programmer and reader, CarveWright memory card, 1/1/16" tapered carving bit, crank handle ball, and shoulder bolt. The setup of the CarveWright machine is very simple, yet highly important to the correct operation of the machine. It weighs just over 70 pounds, so assistance may be needed to lift the machine from the box. Place the machine on a sturdy table or workbench. Attach the crank handle ball to the crank lever with a Phillips head screwdriver. Remove the wrapping from the end of the flex shaft assembly. Gently pull the end of the flex shaft core out of the sheath. Reinsert into the sheath and turn until you feel resistance, indicating it is properly engaged. If the core spins freely without resistance, it is not properly engaged. When properly inserted, the core should extend 1/2 to 5/8 inch past the end of the sheath. Insert the flex shaft into the cutting spindle through the slot at the top of your machine by pushing down and rotating the quick change chuck slightly until it drops into the square slot and engages the cutting spindle. Turn the spindle by hand to assure it's engaged. Failure to properly insert the flex shaft core into the spindle will cause it to overheat and fail. The power cord is located on the front of the machine. Ensure the power switch on the side of your machine is in the off position. Select a wall outlet that is not shared with any other appliance or tool that may suddenly draw power away from your CarveWright, such as a freezer or air compressor. If you must use an extension cord, use one of sufficient gauge and load rating. Refer to the electrical connections section of the owner's manual for detailed information. Fold the feed-out trays down and check that they are at the correct height. To check, place a flat piece of material across the belt drive trays and press down, making sure that it is laying flat across both belt drive trays. Verify that the rollers on the outfeed trays are just below the material. If required, use a 10mm wrench to adjust the outfeed tray height with the adjustment screws. It is very important that the head pressure is checked regularly in order to maintain optimum machine performance. The head loading can change over time due to dust buildup on the 4 corner posts and 2 lead screws. If the head pressure is not correct, the machine will not function properly. Specifically, the sandpaper drive belts are prone to roll up on the ends if the head loading drops below a certain level. The pressure is set at the factory, but the rigors of shipping can lead to a decreased head pressure. To measure the machine's head pressure, move the sliding plate to the right side of the machine. Center the scale on the traction drive belts like a regular workpiece. Turn the scale so that the display is facing the keypad. Crank the head down. Listen for a clicking sound and continue to crank at least 2 more times. The scale should read between 75 and 85 pounds. This detailed check, instructions on adjusting your head pressure, and the lubrication procedure can all be found in the Care and Maintenance section of the Owner's Manual. With setup of your CarveWright machine complete, it is recommended that the box and all packing materials be saved in the event the machine needs to be returned to the manufacturer for service. If an issue or question does arise with your CarveWright machine, please contact CarveWright directly at 713-473-6572. Do not return the machine to the retailer for service. Now that the machine is set up, you will need to install your CarveWright Designer software. Installation and activation of Designer software. The CarveWright Designer software operates on both PC and Macintosh operating systems equally well. It is designed to have a familiar look and feel as many of the popular software packages that you may use every day. The menu and toolbar setup is also similar and allows access to the software's many functions through 3 different means: drop-down menus, right-click menus, and mouse buttons or keystroke operations. The software is designed specifically for the CarveWright machine and is powerful yet easy to use. Insert the installation CD into your computer or download it from the CarveWright website. Follow the detailed installation instructions, selecting the default installation when prompted. Once the installation is complete, you will need to register your software. For further instruction on installing and registering your software, refer to the instructions included on your software CD. Check for updates in the software by selecting Help/Check for Updates. With installation complete, it is time to design your first project. Designing a project. This project is a simple tutorial to get you started using the system. For more software tutorials, visit the Tutorials under the Help menu in your Designer software. Open your CarveWright Designer software. The first screen to appear is the Welcome menu, where you have a choice of starting a new project, working on the last project that you saved, opening a previously designed project from your hard drive, or accessing further documentation materials. Select New Project. Set your workpiece dimensions to length 12 inches, width 6 inches, thickness 0.75 inches, then click OK. It is recommended that the machine sees this size workpiece inserted into the machine to carve. The board piece will then display on screen in 3 dimensions. To manipulate the workpiece, feel free to use the zoom, rotate, pan, front and rear view icons located on the icon toolbar. An alternative method of manipulating the board would be to press and hold the Control key while using the right-click function of your mouse. Select the Pattern tool to open the pattern library along the right-hand side. This is the blue shell in the toolbar. Then select the Shell 02 pattern under Shells in the Basic Library. The pattern can then be placed on the board in 1 or 2 ways. Either click on the pattern and then click on the board, or click on the pattern and drag to the board. To manipulate the pattern itself, use the red nodes on the corners to scale the shell larger or smaller without changing the aspect ratio. The yellow nodes can be used to stretch the pattern, but will not maintain the original aspect ratio of the pattern. As with any other element on your workpiece, you can right-click on the shell to bring up a menu which contains all available options for that element. Select Center, then select Center Both. Go back into the Patterns library and select Filigrees 01 under Filigrees in the Basic Library. Place on the board next to the shell. Resize using the red nodes and position at the base of the shell. Right-click and select Mirror, then Mirror horizontally. The pattern will be reflected across the board opposite side. Notice that whatever you do to one mirrored object is doing to all of its instances. You can then use the Rotate function to view your design from different angles. Congratulations! You've designed your first project. Once completed, save your project to your computer hard drive. Click on File and then Save. It is always important to first save your project. If there are changes to be made later, you can pull the project back into your designer software. The next process is to upload your project to the memory card. To upload to the memory card, insert the memory card programmer into a USB port on your computer and insert the memory card. Select File, again, then Upload. Notice the quality settings. Your options are Draft, Normal, Best, and Optimal. Notice in the upload window the estimated time to carve. This time, which is quite accurate, will change based on the selected quality setting. With many projects on one card, it is important to accurately name your project. Give your project a distinct and recognizable name and important information to the name, such as the carving time. This way you can easily identify one project from another. Loading a project. Now it's time to load a project into your CarveWright machine. Remove your memory card from the programmer and take it to your CarveWright machine. Before the CarveWright can function, the CarveWright memory card must be installed into the memory card slot on the keypad side of the machine. With the power off, push the memory card gently into the memory card slot until it stops, making sure the label is up. Do not force the memory card into the memory card slot. Once the CarveWright memory card is installed, the machine can be turned on with the power switch. Look at the LCD display and rotate the contrast control knob until the display is readable from a comfortable angle. Never remove the memory card from the machine while it is on. Irreparable damage can occur to the machine. To stop a project that is being carved, you may at any time press the stop button or lift the safety cover. This will command the machine to stop all motion. Pressing the stop button a second time will abort the project, so be careful when stopping the machine's operation. If desired, the machine can be restarted by closing the safety cover and pressing the Enter button. The machine will resume carving at the position where it was stopped, even if you have moved the cutting spindle to a different location. Never crank up the head or remove a workpiece in the middle of a project. This will abort the project automatically. Also, never remove a bit in the middle of the project, as this will affect the carving quality. Using the keypad and LCD panel. The main purpose of the CarveWright is to carve and cut intricate patterns and designs created through the CarveWright Designer software. There are other built-in woodworking functions on board the machine as well. To learn how each of these functions is accomplished, please refer to the owner's manual. Once the machine is powered up, the LCD will automatically display the project menu. Use the up-down arrows to locate the project you wish to carve, and press Enter. Once your project is selected, you can load a properly prepared workpiece into your CarveWright. Proper preparation of a workpiece. The CarveWright has a board tracking sensor that accurately measures and calculates the workpiece's position at all times. It is located at the squaring plate and will require at least 3/8 inches of flat and level surface along the bottom edge of the workpiece. A workpiece with an existing feature, such as previous carvings, knots, holes, splits, paint, or rounded edges, may cause the machine's sensors to incorrectly measure the workpiece. The workpiece must also be flat and straight. Check the workpiece for cupping, bowing, crooking, and twisting. Make sure that the top and bottom of your medium is smoothly planed. Ensure that the width is equal from end to end, and that your sides have a good 90-degree edge. Any board that does not meet this criterion will either need to be replaced or placed in a special jig before carving. The minimum acceptable size of a workpiece that can be inserted into the CarveWright is 1.5 inches wide by 0.5 inches thick by 7 inches long. Anything smaller than these minimum dimensions will require a jig. The maximum size of a workpiece is limited only by the physical size of the CarveWright machine and is 14.5 inches wide by 5 inches thick by 12 feet long. Loading a workpiece. Proper installation of the workpiece is critical to the performance and continued operation of the machine. To properly insert a workpiece, first, press down on the sliding guide plate release lever and move the sliding guide plate to the right so that it will clear the width of the workpiece. Use the crank handle to raise the head high enough for easy insertion of the workpiece. Never crank your machine head above the slots on the 4 guide posts or it may get stuck. See manual on how to get it unstuck. Lay the workpiece on the traction drive so that it is centered lengthwise under the head. Place the board firmly up against the squaring plate and on top of the board tracking sensor. Move the sliding guide plate up against the right edge of the workpiece. The sliding guide plate is used to guide the workpiece and is not intended to lock the piece in position. It is critical to ensure the workpiece can travel freely in and out of the machine along its entire length without getting wedged. Test the workpiece by moving it in and out of the machine by hand while it is lying flat on the traction drive. Next, lower the head by turning the head crank handle counterclockwise. Once the correct pressure loading of the head is reached, the clutch will begin to click. Continue to rotate the crank 2 full turns once the clicking sound is heard to ensure full loading. Failure to correctly load the workpiece by ratcheting the clutch at least 2 full turns after the clicking begins may result in diminished carving quality. The clutch is intended to load the board against the traction drive with consistent force. In certain cases, the machine can sense if the workpiece is not loaded enough, and the LCD display will show "Please load board." Most often, this decreased loading is caused by insufficient lubrication of the 4 vertical corner posts or the 2 vertical lead screws. Please see the lubrication and checking the head pressure instructions under Maintenance and Care on this DVD or from your owner's manual for detailed information on these procedures. The head locking lever is then rotated outward into the locked position. The workpiece is now secured and ready to be carved. Make sure that the locking lever is released, pushed in, after finishing carving. If the locking lever is not released, then the head will not be able to move up and down. Project Setup. Before we can begin carving the project that we designed earlier in this DVD, a number of menu prompts and machine operations must be completed. After selecting which project you want to carve, the machine will move the cutting spindle up and over to the Home position. The machine will then ask if the workpiece is to stay under rollers. By selecting Yes, you are choosing to keep the workpiece under the compression rollers. This helps to avoid undesirable lines in the carving called snipe. This occurs if the workpiece moves after coming out from under the rollers. Yes means that it will maintain constant contact with both the board tracking sensor and be held in place by the two compression rollers. It is recommended that this option be used in most cases. If Yes is selected to stay under rollers, the machine will automatically assume that there is a 3 1/2 inch extra length on either side of the project, which means the workpiece or medium that you load into the machine must be at least 7 inches longer than the length of the board you specified in the designer software, or a jig must be used to simulate the longer board. If the board that you insert does not account for this extra length, then the machine will ask you if you want to scale the project or insert another board. It is recommended that you insert the right-sized board in this case, because scaling can have some unintended consequences. On our project, we will select Yes, stay under rollers. This is why we need a 19-inch board to complete the 12-inch long project we laid out in the software. The machine will then measure the workpiece with its sensors. If the size of the inserted workpiece does not match the size of the project designed in the software, then the machine will prompt for additional information or action. If one or both of the width and length dimensions measure smaller than the design dimensions, you will be given one of two options. 1. Scale the project, meaning the project design will automatically be scaled down to fit the workpiece while maintaining the aspect ratio. Or 2. Load new board or workpiece. If, on the other hand, both of the measured dimensions are greater than the designed dimensions, you will be given 3 options. 1. Keep original size. 2. Scale the project, which scales the project up to the largest size to fit the board without changing the original aspect ratio. Or 3. Place on end, which places the project on the corner closest to the keypad and toward the back of the machine. If you select Keep Original Size, the machine will ask where to place the project on the workpiece. 1. Center on board, which centers the project on the workpiece. 2. Jog to position, which allows you to move the project to the location of your choosing using the arrow keys. Or 3. Place on end, which places the project on the corner closest to the keypad and toward the back of the machine. In general, it is a good practice to put a board into the machine that is slightly larger than your original design and select Keep Original Size. Be very careful when scaling down a project at the machine. The machine will scale the entire project to the largest size that will fit the workpiece while maintaining the overall aspect ratio of height to width. It will not change the aspect ratio to fit that of the workpiece. Scaling down can also lead to undesirable thinning of the carved elements that may lead to wood chip out. If possible, measure the workpiece to carve before starting the project layout in the software. This will help guide the design and prevent unintended scaling issues if the project design is different than the available workpiece. Again, remember, if you choose the Stay Under the Rollers option, you must have an additional 7 inches of length on your workpiece, or you cannot complete the project at full size. Using the Measure function of the machine will provide the most accurate measurement. Once all of the required data has been entered, the machine will prompt you to insert the required bit. It will first tell you which bit to load into the machine based on your project design. Pressing Enter will move the cutting truck to a position in the middle of the machine that offers easy access to load or change the bit. For projects that require more than one bit, the machine will prompt for each bit at that point and will store the calibration settings.
Inserting the CarveWright bits. Inserting your new CarveWright bits is very fast and easy. The solid carbide cutting and carving bits come pre-assembled with pressed-on bushings. These bushings fit easily into the CarveWright shaft and the flange sets the depth precisely every time. The steel shank decorative bits will use a universal collet which will fit on any of the bits that you can buy for your CarveWright. Installing the new bits is as simple as slipping them into the spindle shaft and tightening down the grab foot. Make sure to slide the bit all the way into the shaft such that the flange on the bushing touches the bottom of the shaft. Tighten the screw snugly and you're ready to carve. To remove, carefully place your hand under the bit and loosen the screw. The bit should be loose enough that it'll fall right into your hand. All half-inch steel shank decorative bits will also be inserted directly into the spindle shaft. Observe the small rubber stop collet that will set the height of the bit once installed. 1/4-inch steel shank decorative bits will require you to use the universal split collet. Go ahead and slide the split collet onto the shank of the bit down to the stop collar. Insert the colleted decorative bit into the CarveTight spindle and tighten down the grab foot.
Bit tip locator plate. After the bit is properly loaded, the machine will locate the bit by touching it to the swinging locator plate. It will then locate the top surface of the workpiece by touching it with the bit tip, in essence, measuring the thickness of the workpiece. Be sure to observe that the bit is touching the locator plate properly. If the locator plate is not swinging out all the way, it is an indication of excess dust buildup around or under the plate. Clean and lubricate to resolve the issue. The machine will then proceed to carve the project. A carving completion estimator will be displayed on the LCD and provides an estimate of how much of the current carving is completed. This completion estimator gives an estimate for the element that is carving at the time and does not necessarily provide an estimate for the entire project. When the carving is completed, lift the top safety cover, release the head lockdown lever, and crank the head up to free the workpiece. The workpiece can then be removed and examined. After removal from the machine, it is advisable to brush away any whiskers from the carving with a small brass utility brush and to blow it free of dust with compressed air. See the tips and tricks for different finishing techniques. Machine care and maintenance. The CarveWright is a precision machine tool. With proper care and maintenance, it will provide long, reliable service. Always unplug the machine before attempting any maintenance or troubleshooting on the machine. Dust removal. The CarveWright is designed to tolerate a considerable amount of carving dust, but to ensure proper operation, it should be kept free of dust and debris as much as possible. Periodically blow or vacuum out any dust or debris from the recesses of the unit. Always make sure to use low-pressure air around the electronics and sensors. High-pressure air can damage components and actually push dust into them. Checking the head pressure. Follow the steps outlined in the setup section of this DVD to check head pressure. If head pressure is low, it generally means the guidepost or lead screws are dirty. The vertical guidepost at the corners of the machine and the lead screws in the center of the machine need to be clean and rust-free for smooth operation. A thin coat of lithium grease applied to the rods will help keep them free of rust and moving up and down smoothly. Crank the head up and down a few times to evenly distribute the lubrication. Pitch removal. Buildup from pitch, a tar-like substance from woods, paints, and petroleum products, is not usually a big problem. At times, a workpiece with a high content of pitch may leave deposits on the cutter bit and elsewhere. These deposits are easily removed using mineral spirits. Flex shaft core. The flex shaft core should be cleaned and relubricated only if it begins to exhibit extreme heating during operation. To access the core, firmly grasp the flex shaft outer sheath and pull it free from the head. The core is contained within the sheath and should slide out freely when grasped between finger and thumb. Inspect the core for debris and clean with a lint-free cloth if necessary. After applying the specified lubricant, wipe off any excess lubricant from the core. Then slide the core back into its sheath. When near full insertion, the core may need to be carefully rotated with the fingers to ensure that it is square and engages correctly with the cutting motor. Insert the flex shaft into the cutting spindle through the slot at the top of your machine by pushing down and rotating the quick change chuck slightly until it drops into the square slot and engages the cutting spindle. Turn the spindle by hand to assure it's engaged. Failure to properly insert the flex shaft core into the spindle will cause it to overheat and fail. Replacement of parts. Due to wear or accident, some components of the machine will need replacement. Most of these can be accomplished by the machine owner, eliminating the need for shipping the machine to the service factory. Various replacement parts are available at www.CarveWright.com. Instructions for removal of the old part and installation of the new part are also available. Cleaning of the board sensor. From time to time, the sensor that locates and measures the workpiece can become obscured by dust. The sensor system consists of an LED and an infrared detector. The LED and detector are mounted behind a clear window in a plastic case at the bottom of the horizontal moving truck. If cleaning is required, the machine LCD will display "Please clear board sensor." To clean, simply blow low-pressure compressed air onto the sensor window or wipe with a clean cloth. It is recommended that this sensor be cleaned after every project. For more detailed information, see the troubleshooting section in your owner's manual. Proper storage and environment for your CarveWright. It is important that the CarveWright be stored indoors in a low humidity environment. Never operate the machine in temperatures above 110 degrees or below 40 degrees Fahrenheit. Additional information. Thank you for taking the time to watch this CarveWright operational DVD. We hope this has given you a better understanding of how your new CarveWright woodworking system operates. Tons of additional information is included on our website, including software tutorials, instructional documents, CarveWright Users Forum, Customer Gallery, Frequently Asked Questions, a listing of trade shows where you can see live demonstrations, available training classes, and much more. As always, customer service is available at 713-473-6572 from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. Central Standard Time to answer any of your hardware or software questions. In the event of an issue or problem, avoid contacting your retailer and instead contact CarveWright support immediately to open up new possibilities, add to your creativity, and enhance the hours of enjoyment with your CarveWright woodworking system.